RingGangRadio.com. Take over. Last mission. Final boss mode.
Yeah, what's good, yo? Welcome to another episode of Real Talk, where as always, if shit's real, we talk about it. You know, I'm your host for tonight, Pat Scorpion, the New England representative. And usually, the person that I introduce after me, he's taking the night off a little bit. He's got to, deal with some stuff, though. But I got my other man with me, and I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Yo, I finally got first billing, top billing. Yo, what a life. What a life. What a life. It's about time I got top billing. What's good? You know who this is. Your boy King P, Bodega Box in the building. Ring Gang Radio, let's go.
Hey, Bodega P's in the building, man. I know you had I'm pretty sure you had Dale, so you're not fighting crime right now. You're probably excited about that Nets basketball and whatnot. Is that correct?
I was fighting crime earlier, and now I'm not watching the game right now because it's making me too sad. So, it's I'm hurting seeing James Harden just limp around on one leg. So it's this game is getting really bad really quickly. So I'm turning it off right now and watching the Islanders for now. But it's halftime. So yes, I'm watching hockey.
Oh damn, bro! You're watching hockey.
Yeah, I'll watch I'll turn it on when halftime finishes, and maybe I'll feel better. But right now I'm watching hockey.
And the funny thing too is I'm just looking at my messages, and and Pilot just mentioned too. I think he's getting ready to hop on, but he said the same thing. My net's not looking good.
Yeah. Oh Lord.
Oh man, but at least it's good. I'm pretty sure now there'll probably be an uptick in some more crime once that game is done. Because people are probably gonna be pissed, and they're gonna want to commit some felonies. So you gotta probably handle that later.
Yeah, unfortunately, if I'm in the mood to handle anything, I might just let them have anarchy for the night. I've already punched out for today, so I don't care.
That's what it is. And and Pilot should be jumping on soon. But basically, tonight's show is just going to be recapping, because there was only one boxing card last weekend, which is a contrast considering how many are going to be going on next weekend.
That's funny to me, because it's like, oh well, we're going to give you one fight this weekend, and now we're going to roll out 5 fights in a row next weekend, and then the next weekend. So yeah.
Yeah, though. But before we get into that, though, I see that my man, my other man just logged in, man. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Good, well, it's your boy Conscious Pilot. Slight flight delay, but we're here live in action, Ring Gang Radio. I'm here, brother. What's happening? What are we talking about?
Man, so yeah, so tonight it's just a one fight recap. Obviously the Shakur card, because that fight has on boxing Twitter and other has triggered some pretty strong reactions pretty much on what went down. For those who who are under a rock, Shakur, he had a fight against the WBO's number 2 contender, Jeremiah Nakathila from Nambia. And he was largely unknown, and then just watching some of his fights on YouTube, there's some footage on there. I mean, it was clear that that the man had a hell of a right hand. Like he punched hard with his right hand. So it's basically we were on our preview. We were wondering whether or not we were going to get, maybe a case of the unknown African fighter. Which, if we hear us talk about it, sometimes, because Africa has plenty of talented fighters, and sometimes when they get that chance, they may come out of nowhere and cause a major upset. I mean, this is how Julius Sandago, also from Nambia, became a unified champion at 140. He actually won and then unified another belt, which is a whole nother conversation before. But that's a perfect example of someone coming out of complete nowhere from Africa, and and just becoming champion, and upsetting the apple cart. So we were all thinking, okay, and then Shakur, because what Shakur had was he was briefly featherweight champion. He won the vacant belt against that Oscar Valdez vacated, and he won it in a pretty convincing fight against Joe Gonzalez, but he never defended the belt. So he won it, and then he vacated a couple months later. So, WBO rule states he's the number one contender for if he goes up for position for the 130 belt, which is held by Jamel Herring. So on the line was an interim belt, a rare one, because usually WBOs, when they do their interim belts, they're not like the WBC or not like the WBA, for crying out loud. They tend to actually face the legitimate champion. So that was on the line. So this fight, now I'll say the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good was, and I think everyone can probably agree with me, that Shakur Stevenson's defense is top level. It's defense. Like, the man is hard to hit, and say people don't. I think the statistic was like Nakathila was only landing like maybe 2.3 punches per round on him, which is insane.
I mean, we already knew that he had very good defense, though. So this is not something that, nothing new. It's just more confirmation.
Yeah, I mean, his level of competition definitely, it's borderline elite, at least with guys he fought. But obviously, that's another story.
Yeah, and like I said, and obviously, and truthfully, you do like to see young fighters, have good defense, because we've seen younger fighters that kind of throw that to the wind, and they end up losing their careers pretty early, like Alex Saucedo for one's a very blatant example of that. So yeah, it's good that you have someone who's ultra defensive, because sometimes you don't want your fighters getting into needless wars all the time. And then we got the ugly. Now we got the bad. The bad was, because sometimes, and this is maybe a thing of this. I think this is definitely birthed from Floyd Mayweather, the latter half of Floyd, not Pretty Boy Floyd, but Money May Floyd Mayweather, is this style of punching one punch at a time. Now, I'm not saying it's not an effective style. If done right, yes, it's highly effective. But for optics, but that only works if you're fighting some really top level competition. You could do that, and you can control someone who's pretty hard to defeat. Then that's not an issue. But if you're fighting someone who's clearly not on your level, and it was pretty established that over 3 rounds, then you need to put your foot on the gas, get into second gear, and try to get rid of them. Unfortunately, that was not the case. It was not the case at all. And I know P, you kind of your body kind of tapped out.
Yeah, I fell asleep during the live performance, so that says all you need to know.
I mentally tapped out, so I'm with you. It was on, but it wasn't. It was unfortunately background.
Yeah, I physically tapped out. I think after the 5th round.
Yeah, and unfortunate for me, because usually fights of that nature, I'm gonna have to drink something, walk around. But surprisingly, because I think I slept good the other night, so I was actually alert to watch everything. I watched everything from 1 to 12. So and unfortunately, I wasn't drinking any beer or anything like that. So I was mildly annoyed from what I was watching. So now you got the ugly. So when you have someone who's not really committing to his offense like he should, and you have another fighter who can't land what he can, because Nakathila, what we found out early was he didn't have a consistent jab, and he himself was winging one punch at a time. Like, it wasn't like he was trying to set up, like you can see his right hand. Like, dude, we telegraphed the hell out of that shit. If it wasn't a right hand, it was a left hook. He was winging them. And he didn't land either. I think he landed maybe like one good shot, because Shakur had a shiner under his right eye. It looks like a little bit of a shiner, but other than that, Nakathila was ineffective, like highly ineffective. And then, unfortunately, when you have that, you have what we call an ugly fight. and you know it's bad too when you have someone like Timothy Bradley, who was pretty much a top rank shill, talk about he couldn't talk about it was boring, like legitimately his words, and he felt like he was about to fall asleep. It was a mess, and you had Andre Ward kind of playing. He sort of played devil's advocate.
Yeah, a little bit. But I mean, he wasn't he Shakur's handler for a long time? But he fairly criticized him as he should have. So
yeah,
both guys gave an honest assessment of the criticisms that a lot of us feel about Shakur.
Yeah, and honestly, he did. But the one thing about Andre Ward that I can never take seriously, as great as a fighter he was if he says anything about you should try to put him away or you should try to be entertaining. For real. Yeah, honestly, I can't because Andre Ward has a 50% KO ratio, and he's had numerous fights himself where he's let lesser fighters go the distance, and where you could have at least tried to put them away.
Exactly.
So I don't. And then Timothy Bradley is a little worse. Timothy only had 13 career knockouts and 30-something fights, something like that. Like his KO ratio isn't high in himself.
Yeah, not at all. But he's been in some wars though, some like classics. So I mean,
but pretty much Timmy's. Pretty much half of Timmy's career highlights is the Podomatic war. Yeah. He has that, which is pretty much, if you that's pretty much one of the damnedest brawls you've seen like in the last 20 years. So yeah, it definitely was not. It definitely was not a fight that won a lot of fans over. I mean, I saw that it did well in the ratings grab though. I think it got like 875,000, and it peaked at 920,000, which is not bad. But
pretty good. Yeah, the quality didn't match up. So
it was one. It was basically it was a version of maybe when PBC. Had the fucking Ortiz and the dude that pretty much threw the fight. That horrid heavyweight card, but it still did like 1 million plus. It's pretty much something like of that nature. But yeah, there was definitely some strong opinions about this, and pretty much my opinion on it in terms of how Shakur performed, when he's supposed to, but when you have someone who's clearly a lesser fighter, you got to make an attempt to put him away. And the fact that he actually said, that he wanted to play it safe didn't really go over too well with a lot of people. And then you do remember that dude only has 15, 16 fights. He's still, yes, he's a former world champion, but he's also kind of, he's still a borderline novice. But,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but something needs to be tweaked with because and he's not the only one, but to be able to actually transition from defense to offense, because and he's done that in other fights, like really good. Like the first fight in the bubble, like he got rid of dude. Like he did that perfectly.
Oh yeah. He got him out of there.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, no, but it looks, and this fight just looks worse because his last fight he was the main event against Khan Clary, and Clary was clearly overmatched, but he didn't really put Clary away, or didn't really make an attempt to do so. So you have that, and you have two fights like that in a row. People are going to start. People are going to criticize them. But then also, and then and that's an honest criticism. Like if he just he spars with Terrence Crawford, so I don't understand how that's not how he doesn't, transition from defense to offense.
Yeah, it seems like everybody's sparring with Terrence Crawford, but then when it comes to putting it on the actual fight, they don't show nothing of what they were probably doing with Crawford. Right? And we saw Hurd we saw Hurd sparring with Crawford, and look what that did him.
Facts. Pure facts. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I mean, either Crawford's beating the fight out of him or what. I don't know. But yeah, it's just like the opposite. It just didn't look good. Like to see someone like that who's clearly overmatched just hang around for 12 rounds.
Yeah,
but now, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish up.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say that, I mean, when I watched it I watched it when I replayed it since I fell asleep the first time live. Yeah, I could see why a lot of people did not like that fight, and I didn't miss much because it was just so like it seemed like he got comfortable, and then it was just he doesn't switch out of gears when he gets comfortable. He just stays in place. He doesn't I think there were opportunities to get the guy out of there. I think there were plenty of opportunities. He was open for some more beatings, but he just didn't. It just he like what you said. He needs to I don't know why he's not transitioning defense to offense, because he could have counterpunched him to death and gotten a stop, but he just played it timid. Just took away the right hand, but just didn't do anything else.
Exactly. He did. He did have a nice counter. I'm not saying because he clearly has enough power to knock him down, because he did it with a nice counter that put him on the canvas briefly. I think it was in the 4th round or something like that. He clearly had, and he did stun him a couple of times. But the thing was, he was just stunning him one punch at a time. It wasn't combinations. It wasn't any. He wasn't
no
throwing
combo. No punches and punches at all. I mean, at least with Haney, who a lot of people criticize, at least he tries to go for the knockouts. I mean, it's kind of weird. Both those guys get the Floyd comps, and technically out of the 4 or 5 young guys, Haney and Shakur might technically be the most sound, but at lower weight, Tank and Tio are getting guys out, and even Ryan Garcia. I mean, these guys are because knockouts do get these guys the exposure that casuals and people that want to see knockouts see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean Ryan Garcia's skill. I mean Ryan Garcia has so many flaws, I don't even know where to count, but dude has power. Power.
It's funny that you mentioned those two, because we just, we got the poll going on. It's still going on of, between Shakur and Haney, whose fights have been more disappointing or boring to watch. And there's 52 votes and 75% said Shakur. It's more disappointing, more boring to watch.
Yeah. And the funny thing, it's boring because it's not boring because Shakur has plenty of skill. He's a very skilled young fighter.
Yeah.
He's obviously he's still learning though. But yeah, I think Shakur needs to, and I hope he can turn this corner. He will become more offensive. I'm not talking about offensive as in you're gonna forget that you think you have a concrete chin, you gotta go in there and slug it out. But be able to actually, because it's the hurt business. Being slick is
absolutely
all good, but you got to break down your opponent.
Yeah.
If you're not getting hit, you gotta make sure you got to switch your opponent that you're trying to hit you.
Word to Bobby Lashley. It's the hurt business.
Bobby Lashley and MVP, right? Where are those guys at?
Yeah, it's the hurt business. So but it's funny that the overwhelming majority in that poll voted for Shakur, because it's I can see why. At least with Haney, let me put it like this: Haney's fighting the guys that he's fought, especially that guy like Linares. If Shakur went 12 with the caliber of somebody who's Linares, I don't think anybody would complain. It's just a matter of you're facing undermatched competition and you're Linaresing them. That's not a good look at all.
You're facing guys that we have to Google, and there's barely any YouTube videos of them. That's the problem.
Right.
Yeah, so I also don't know if it's a thing of maybe it's one of those things where Shakur will turn it up as he fights better competition, because some people are just like that. Andre is like that. Andre has to fight better competition before you really get the best out of him. Some people are just like that. So I'm not counting Shakur out. I still think he's a hell of a young fighter. I think he's still got plenty of room to grow. But it's just so funny to see people's reactions just change. Like not only Timothy Bradley, who got called out for it, but like now I'm hearing people do saying nonsensical stuff. Like now there are people saying, oh, well, I think Valdez could beat Shakur. And I'm just like, really being serious now? Like this fight Sunday, that fight that this Saturday doesn't change my mind in anything against Valdez. So if anybody out there really thinks Valdez will beat Shakur, if they ever fight, I'll run me some money, because I'll bet you on that one. I'll bet you whatever on that one.
And that's real too. That's absolutely. But I mean, but one thing definitely needs to stop with Shakur, or at least something related to Shakur: the Floyd comparisons. In Top Rank, you gotta do a better job of trying to market your fighter. Like, not every black fighter needs to be every slick black fighter that you get in your stable needs to be compared to Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah, but it's funny because he just like this is a promotional company that that has admitted that they don't know how to promote black fighters, because I'll never forget how Arum said like one of the issues about promoting Floyd was Floyd wanted him to promote himself better to the black audience. And he was like, I can promote black fighters because he promoted black fighters in the past, but he clearly said, but Floyd wanted me to promote, him to the hip hop generation, and that wasn't something I was able to do. And now fast forward it now, 20 years later, where, we're living in the hip hop culture is prevalent in all walks of life. Yep. So like, this is like, now we're really seeing, his inability to promote black fighters front and center.
It's also funny because I don't think Kregel was there, but usually if Loma's fighting or something, they'll always throw subliminal shade at Floyd about being boring in the latter half of his career, and things like that. But to put a trailer of before the Shakur fight of like he's the next Floyd Mayweather, you know what I'm saying? Like it's
that's just the funny thing, because like you said a long time ago you didn't know how to promote to this audience. So now your way of promoting to them is using Floyd to promote them. That's literally because that's the only way he can do it. Just use Floyd, because he knows, Floyd in the hip hop generation loves Floyd, so I'll just use Floyd. Like he basically just uses Floyd's name for everything. Like
it's amazing how things what goes around comes around. Top Rank trying to complete that cipher.
And I mean, like the thing is that with Shakur, it's like Shakur's not Floyd. He's his own. He's completely different from Floyd, to the point where like the comparisons are silly to me to make. At least with Devin Haney, I can understand that a little bit, even though I don't agree. But at least Devin, like he incorporates some of Floyd's techniques and stuff. So I could see like when he tries to imitate Floyd a little bit, he does try to imitate Floyd. Plus, he has a personal relationship with Floyd going back to when he was a kid. So that I can understand making that comparison. Shakur is a completely different person. You can't compare the two.
Right, and most people don't know, because usually a lot of people like turn try to focus on Floyd during his Money May phase. But I'm talking about the Pretty Boy Floyd at 130 and 135 was a fast combination puncher. Like
Floyd was a killer at super feather.
When he went up to and embarrassed, rest in peace, to Corrales, you know what I'm saying, making him cry in the post conference, dropping him 5-6 times in the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like
even before that, Gennaro Hernandez, like he bodied Hernandez.
Floyd was bodying these cats. Floyd's combinations were ridiculous. Like Floyd, you probably saw the peak physical, of Floyd's physical abilities at 130 and 135, and maybe a little bit at 140. But Floyd in his early days, Floyd was vicious. Like he got those knockouts, and Shakur is not incomparable in any way.
No,
Floyd did in his early career. Like not on that level. Floyd was ridiculous. Basically Shakur fights how Floyd fought in the last maybe 5 years of his career, pretty much, give or take. That's probably more of a better comparison, but not young Floyd. Young Floyd was something else.
These dudes don't even like. Forget Floyd. These dudes aren't even like fighting like they should be fighting like a young Joan Guzman. Like they're not even on that level. Like
and honestly, and this is where, and like I said, defense is everything, though, but I absolutely hate the one punch at a time. Like you wait in there, you're waiting to react off someone's punch. I can't stand that. If you can get away with that for a couple of rounds, but you better do something.
That only works if you first off you load up everything in that one punch, and it actually does like Canelo has now become like a one punch guy, really. But that one punch, like he's not throwing combinations anymore. It's just that he's just throwing one punch at a time, but that one punch is doing so much damage. He's hurting people.
And he's throwing more punches, like per round. You go off the numbers. I'm sure he's throwing more punches than like a Shakur, just.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure he probably is, and Canelo's guy has stamina issues, so that's some other shit, But I mean, because the thing is, I just don't want to see. I don't want to see that end up costing Shakur down the line, because I've seen like there's another fighter who's Floyd's cousin too, Anthony Sims, who I rated highly. Dude again had defense and his offense was on point. But later on, he got a little bit, he forgot to switch off from his defense, and then he ended up getting upset, by the lesser Angulo, Romer Angulo, because he wasn't active enough, and that's something I don't want to see happen to him, to Shakur, because obviously the biggest example of that is of course what happened to Guillermo Rigondeaux. Everyone knows.
Sorry, I don't know why my computer fell off. Who were you saying was Floyd? Anthony Sims?
Yeah.
The dude that bodied that Morgan Fitch dude. I can't remember seeing in that fight. And then after that, he lost to the Angulo. Okay, yeah. Now I'm like, okay. I'm like, who's he talking about? Now I'm like, okay, that makes sense. The lesser Angulo.
Yeah, and also too, like you don't want to see, because you don't want to see him turn into another Rigo situation where Rigo, unfortunately was, and Rigo's probably one of the few fighters that I truly believe that the boxing establishment has it out for him. Like like if you say it, I'll believe it, because this is a perfect case. We all know Rigo, he thoroughly outboxed. Donita Donaire, and became the lineal 122 champion, unified belts. But unfortunately, Bob didn't like his performance all that much, and
he cost him money beating his golden goose.
Yeah, he did, and then and then what pretty much was the final straw was the Joseph Abeko fight. And that was the main event, and that was following fucking James Kirkland and Glenn Tapia's firefight, slugfest, and Guillermo Rigondeaux, he won that fight 121-108, but it was a horrible fight to watch. It was horrible for and that pretty much sealed Rigo's fate on American TV. Rigo was banished to HBO Latino.
or not banished to Japan. Like we had to watch him break people's orbitals on streams.
Yeah, that's true. Rigo fought better in Japan, but then when he crawled, when he was given a spot on Canelo Cotto, he had overmatched point and he still went the distance. And and then of course we all saw the Lomachenko fight, which was a nightmare, which is another nightmare to watch. And you don't want to see situations like that where Shakur might end up that way, because Bob knows. Bob is very capable of doing that. He's done this before. He has a history of,
you can't trust Bob with that. But no matter how good you think you are, if you don't produce results, Bob will cut loose.
Yeah, we'll do something or cut you loose. Like we have Elvis Rodriguez. We just recently talked about. We just hope that Shakur does learn from this, and Shakur should probably stay off social media, because dude has been having little Twitter fingers, calling out Timmy, calling out his performance, calling out people that hate, that are hating on him, blah 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 blah. You know, like dude should just like.
I mean, to be fair, Tim kind of goes with the moment. Tim like is such an in the moment guy. Like he does kind of, I don't want to say flop a little bit with opinions, and like he's kind of almost like a toned down Atlas sometimes. Like,
a little bit. Yeah.
I see the Teddy Atlas in him sometimes, but I'm not gonna fault him for his opinion on this fight because it just wasn't a good fight, and Shakur even apologized for it. So.
Yeah. I mean, I like Timmy's passion. I mean, he be saying off the wall shit, but he's a drug. So does Shakur fight Herring next? Is that supposedly in the works, or?
Well, Herring is he's the mandatory to Herring, but I honestly don't know. Honestly, that's the other thing. It's not a good look that he's like crashing all in Herring's videos. I'm gonna fuck this nigga up. Like it don't even it looks stupid. Like he's trying all the videos. Like Herring just makes him look stupid.
Yeah.